Hello, welcome back. I'm Montaigue and this is lesson 5 of Bagua Complete Basics. So we're carrying on into the classical circular form now. We finished palm change number 1 in the last lesson, so we're going to be carrying on into palm change number 2 in this next lesson. As I explained in the previous lesson, now that we've covered a lot of the basic fundamental principles in the previous lessons, we're going to be able to get through a lot more now in a shorter period of time, because a lot of movements, it'll just be a case of do this like you did in the last posture. It's just a slight variation, so we'll get through it a little bit quicker as you go along. Okay, so let's get straight into it. Right, so we've walked around the circle after our first palm change. So we did our final first palm change here. Now where were we? Bang, bang, we turned out, came back in, we walked around the circle once, back to our starting point. Okay, so first move, second palm change. I'll show you what the second palm change looks like, nice and slowly. Then of course, we do the whole thing on the reverse side, slip forward, walk around, and that's the finish of the second palm change. So we're going to go through that. So as you saw, the first move is the same as what we've already done. So no need to cover that again in detail. The only difference is the mindset. The physical movement is the same, but as you'll see in the application, the mindset is different. So, the previous time, remember I said we've dealt with someone here, and there's a new attacker coming onto us. So we're dealing with a new attacker. This time, it'll make more sense when I show you the actual application. However, from here, we're doing the same thing here, but this movement is already someone here. So I'm not going to explain the application because I've already filmed that and I'll show you in a minute, but just so you have the right mindset, one attacker here, there. So the first palm change that we did, when we did the same movement, we dealt with one attacker in the center, here. Still the same attacker, right, on this move. So we've still got this guy. Now, on this move, we're dealing with a new attacker to finish off the posture. Now what we're doing, physically it's the same posture, but we're dealing with one person here. Now we're finishing him. Now on the next move, instantly, new attacker coming through, bang. So this is the next attacker coming through. And then we follow up with our next movement. Okay, the reason that we do it this way is simply because from here, if I'm still dealing with this person, your next movement from here to go like this, that's a secondary movement. You can't go from here and go to reach behind someone as an initial defensive action, of course. You have to have dealt with someone. A movement like that is representing you've already closed with him. You've already taken a block, you've struck him in some way. Now we're following through for something else. So that's why your mindset must say that this is the next attacker. Now you're grabbing hold of him and doing your next application, as will be explained when I show the applications. So, physical movements though, to here are exactly the same. It's what we've already covered. So, let's see, what do we do from here? Oh, the only thing I'll give you different, now this is not necessarily a more advanced thing to do, it's just a different thing to do on this particular movement. You can do it either way. I would usually advise, that's why in the first palm change I showed to do this movement very calmly and softly. There was the bump, and then it softens down. This is just to make sure you don't build too much tension in the body. Now that you've come onto this second palm change, you can do it either way. So if you want to keep doing it that way that I've just shown, with the soft movement there, please feel free to do that. When I do my own form, I do it both ways. Sometimes I'll do it softly, sometimes I'll do it a bit more martially, so that's up to you. And equally, you can do the first palm change with this second strike in here, if you wish from now on. But try to have a happy medium. Do it sometimes soft, do it sometimes a little bit faster, and so on. Remember, the slow way is the way that will show up your errors. Okay, so we're going to get a double bump now. So remember all that stuff I said in the previous lesson about conditioning the arms, striking the arms to activate points, cleanse the body, and so on. We're now going to do to a second portion of the body. So strike here, exactly as we've done. Hook it in, exactly as we've done. But notice how the left hand slightly comes off the arm. So now, as I do this strike here, see that? Instead of just placing the hand across this inner edge of the forearm, I'm going to get a little bump there. Be even more careful with this one because the inside of your arm is a lot more sensitive than the outside of your arm. It's more vulnerable. So don't do this one too hard. You're basically getting that whole ridge, crease of the elbow in there with this area of your thumb and radial bone. So that's where you're striking. So you're getting, you see? So the first bump's going to be a little bit harder in the beginning, and then you're going to progress into the second bump. So it looks like this. See? So you're just putting a bit more of an actual strike. Doesn't mean I'm doing it fast or like with power behind the movement yet. That comes at a later stage. It just means you're getting that extra little bump happening. See? Just like that. So you get bump, and off that bump, of course, you can't hold your arm on there because otherwise you don't get the next bump. So you have to let it sort of recoil off. So from here, see that? There's a little separation of the hands, and then you just strike sort of downward onto your arm, but I would say it's more like your left hand is sort of holding structure. It's just sort of holding its structure here. The right hand pushes through, and see, it runs into it. It's like this is in the way, and it gets hit by the right arm because of that extending of the arm. So that's just another area, different variation of the movement. Okay, from here, footwork. What we're going to do now is we're going to do more like a Tai Chi step as opposed to one of these little snappy steps that we do in Bagua. So all we're going to do is turn your left foot out, so it's about 45 degrees off the circle. So from where it was, just go to the line and then go about 45 degrees further past the line, past the circumference. Okay, that's where we're going to be going. One. As you're turning the foot out, you're shifting your weight forward. So it's a weighted turn into that foot. So from here, turn your foot out, bring your weight forward. You're not going to do one of these Bagua steps this time. You're going to do what's called a cat step, where we roll the foot this time. So it's a different, we're learning different things. So in this case, we do allow the hip to pull the heel up, like so, and allow the foot to roll forward and place the heel. So you've got yin and yang happening on a more obvious level than last time. Last time the yin and yang is very subtle when we pick up the foot flat when we're doing our walking of the circle. Now we're going to actually roll the foot up. So we're stretching the arch out, like so. As it comes forward, notice how the foot curves under, so it's going concave. And then as you place it out, it's going to flex out and place the heel onto the circle, the circumference, and then of course you roll forward into posture. If you've practiced Tai Chi, this is kind of like a bow stance, like something you would do for pung or brush knee twist step, things like this. Maybe it's a little bit longer and narrower. Actually, I guess it's more like a single whip stance if you've practiced that. But all you got to think is, this is why it's easier with the circle. You don't have to know where to put your feet. Just put your feet on the circle. So turn your foot out accordingly. Step straight forward, like so that you get a decently long stance. The length of your stance should be so that that normal height that we've gone down to, that we've learnt about, with the knee in line with the toe, so we're not sinking right down like this or something, but we're not standing upright. We're sunk down naturally. So if you simply extend your leg out to your natural reach and put it on the circle, that will give you your correct stance. So for me to make it shorter, I would have to bend the knee. So don't bend your knee. Stretch it out, reach forward, and place the heel. All the while, in your standing leg, you're maintaining your sweet spot, maintaining groundedness. When you do these kind of steps, these cat steps, it's important not to bob up and down. So when you come forward, you see how I've lifted my center of gravity? Now I'm dropping my center of gravity. What I want to do is I'm already sunk here in the posture. So when I shift forward, notice I'm already sinking in the front leg. So my center of gravity is going laterally across. It's not going up and down. I'm maintaining my groundedness, particularly when I step. Don't lift yourself up because it's difficult. You've got to maintain weight in this leg. So maintain that as you step forward and place your heel. So I haven't bobbed up and down at all. And like with all the other steps, when I place that heel, it's totally empty as I place the heel. Then I transfer the weight into that foot. The feet are not quite parallel, they're just a little bit open from parallel. Like so. I'll just do it facing the camera. Obviously I'm not in the circle now, but assuming I was on the circle, your feet would kind of look like that, you see? So there's parallel, they're a little bit open from parallel. But the important thing is that you're facing the same direction as your front foot. So for example, I wouldn't put the foot there and face this way, for example. So where my foot is pointing, that's where my hips and shoulders should be pointing for the next application. Here goes a train again. Just, I'm sure it's not too noisy, I'm sure you can still hear me. This carpet's getting rather hot, actually. I'm glad it's not a black carpet. This direct sunlight, don't worry, I have sunscreen on my feet, so I shouldn't get burnt. It's all organic, it's all natural, no chemicals. Fear not. Okay, what are we doing? Right, so, same movement as usual, what we've already learned. Right, turn the foot out. As you turn the foot out, your weight comes forward, and notice how you just reach forward with the right hand. Notice how it's going slightly yin. So it was yang, like so, it's going slightly yin as it lifts up. Basically think to yourself, you've hit someone, you're going around behind him and grabbing behind his head or behind the back of his shoulder. You'll see the application in a minute. As you're doing that, I'll do it to the front so you can see what the hands do. As I come forward, see the left hand just slips off the side. See? You're turning your body to the left, you just naturally turn your waist, you see? So your left hand follows your center, whereas your right hand gets pushed out by your center. So they're both connected to your center, but one is connected to your center like this, the other is connected to your center like this. So you have one hand extending, the other hand pulling back and retracting, preparing for the next move. Remember, we said never prepare for a move unless you're doing something else. For example, if I punch someone in the face with my left hand, that's loading my right hand. Doesn't mean that I'm loading my right hand. That's not breaking the rule, because my right hand has to come back in order to hit with my left hand, obviously. So same case here, as the train goes past. I hope these trains don't become more frequent as the day goes on. Look, it's so peaceful and beautiful here. And actually we are pretty much in the middle of mountains and everything, but there is just this one train line that goes past where we are. Okay, it's the Swiss Alps, by the way, just on the border of Liechtenstein, in case you're wondering where we are. All right, so draw that hand back, reach forward with the right hand. Your gaze is just looking forward. You're just looking straight ahead to where your attacker is, you see? Like so. Both hands relax slightly and go a little bit yin. The left hand is going very yin to make sure that it's ready to then pump forward for its next movement. The right hand is only going just like that, you see? It's not going yin yin, it's just fractionally yin. So turn your shoulders, bring your weight forward. Step forward, place the heel. See how soft that step is, like a cat being very careful where it's going to place its feet. So I'm not plonking my weight down into that foot. You've got to step. Even if you do it fast, you're still totally centered on that rear leg when you place that heel. You're not in any way dropping your weight into that front foot. Okay, so just getting that timing right from here. You've got to turn your waist to the left, obviously, from this posture, so you twist out to the left, you see? And then you're going to turn back to the front, which is a right twist of the waist. You should get to your left, your most left point, your most lefterly point, by the time your right heel touches the ground. So from here, boom, see? So I don't want to go something like one and then just step by itself, you see? I want to go So you could break it down. If you're having problems with the step and you're worrying about your balance, then you could break it down and go 1, and then just really focus on the step, 2, and then come forward. So long as, probably the most important thing is, make sure that you're not doing this, 1, 2. See how as I stepped, I turned my body in? That's what you really want to make sure you don't do. You want to make sure that when your heel touches the ground, you're turned to your left. You're opened out, so then you can twist back in to the front of the movement. Okay, so that's all we got to do there. Turn the foot out, reach forward, maintain a tuck here, because as you bring the weight forward, the tension in the back leg will sometimes cause the pelvis to stick out. So make sure you maintain that tuck, so as you come forward, you should feel a big pull, like a stretch, down the inner thigh here and across the top of the hip. So if you don't feel that, it means you're sticking your bum out. So you've got to turn into it, like so. Now that torque there, you can use that to let the foot come through into the next posture. So turn it out, keep the tuck, maintain all your normal principles, roll the foot forward, place the heel. Now as you come forward, that's when you do your strike, okay? So you've reached forward, you're simply going to pull with your right arm by turning your waist, and that's how the application would happen. You see, you're pulling and pushing effectively like that. You don't push all the way through, you just pull to there. Just basically, well, you'd go just past the elbow and then recoil. So the posture itself is in line with the elbow. All right, welcome back again. We've just changed locations. The kids were getting a bit noisy in the background there, swimming and laughing and having a good time. So we've changed locations to Achensee, where are we? Northwestern Austria now, Austrian Alps. So it's a pretty nice place. I'll give you a little look. Okay, let's carry on. Where were we? We were going into the second palm change. We turned the foot out as we reached forward. We stepped forward, maintaining balance with the cat step. Place the heel. Now, as we come forward, here's what we've got to do. Okay, so we've got the strike as you bring your weight forward. We must make sure, I think I've already said that. Okay, so as you turn to your left hand naturally slips off and your right hand extends out to the front, you see? As you bring the weight forward and turning the left foot out. Then you step forward with a cat step, which we've explained. Place the heel. The waist is fully turned to the left now, loaded when the heel's on the ground, you see? So do not turn your waist back to the right, you see, before that foot's touched the ground. Don't start the strike as you're stepping. You must step 1, strike. You see, so you only strike when the weight is coming forward into your front leg. Okay, so let's turn the foot. Oh, also when you turn the foot, and this, I don't think there's any exceptions to this, when you turn your foot, don't turn your foot like that. You see, that's just me moving my leg. It's not connected to my center. Anytime we move any part of the body, really, it's connected to our center. Now, when we're first learning as beginners, some movements may seem like just the arm moving, for example. It may not come from the center because the more subtle movements take a little bit longer of training to understand how to get them to move from the center. But simple gross movements like this, that's an obvious hip movement, whereas that's an obvious body movement. So that's pretty easy to understand, that when I say turn the foot out, your center is turning your foot out, like so, see? And then, well, really your center is kind of pulling that hip forward as well, you see? Because your center's still turning. So it's not just the leg moving by itself, the hip's still turning to the left fractionally, and so there's that little pull which pulls the foot forward. And then you're all cocked up, ready to come through for your final strike. Okay. I honestly can't remember every single posture name in this form. This one's called Fierce Tiger, leaping out or jumps out or pounces, things like this. What I'll do is I'll put the names underneath for you. in case for the postures which maybe I can't remember the precise name, just so you have the exact posture name, so that if you're talking to other people or if you're emailing me, you'll know, oh, okay, I've got a problem with this posture, and so on. So, left hand's going in. The right hand is also kind of going in because it was like that, remember, from the previous posture, so it's very yang. So it's actually coming up like that and going slightly in. But at this point, before we do the strike, it is still fractionally yang in the palm position. It's not like that yet, you see. So I've still effectively got my yang right hand and my yin left hand. As I bring the weight forward, they change state and push and pull. See? So the right hand pulls towards your face and it's a yin state, but as you can see, it's only a fractional yin state. Don't go like this with your hand. Basically your hand's just vertical, just like that, and you can't go wrong. So it's not facing up, it's not facing down, it's facing you like that. The left hand is of course pumping out with a normal yang strike, like so. It is level with your elbow, so your wrist is level with your elbow. When you do the strike, the left hand will pass the elbow just fractionally and then recoil back to in line with the elbow, like so. So don't go like this, in other words. It's not a pumping through action like so. It's, see, it's a short, snappy kind of an action. As I've already explained, when you're doing this posture, you can do it in two ways, but I recommend when you're learning to do all the postures relatively slowly. So particularly the steps. So this first part, I would recommend for beginners one of two ways. Either do the whole thing slowly, like so, or do the step slowly. So we've done this one, there. You've either done that with a little bump or slowly, as I explained. Now, always do the step slowly when you're a beginner. You can do the step fast later on, but to make sure you're understanding your balance and grounding, do the step slowly, see, to make sure that you're not dropping that weight into the foot. You have to be able to step, nothing. Do not touch the foot on the ground, then touch the foot. So do it in 3 stages. Step, touch, move forward. And make sure, as a little training method for yourself, you don't do this in the form, of course, but just for yourself to make sure you're getting the steps right, take the step and place your foot on the ground, but then take it straight back off again. Because what tends to happen is, our mind plays a large component in our balance. So when we say push the foot forward, we don't fall over. But when we say put the foot on the ground, we fall forward. Because our mind has said, oh, the foot's going down, so we can move forward. But you don't want to do that. You want to maintain your grounding. So, what we want to do is turn the waist, step forward and place the foot. See that? But as soon as it touched the ground, I'm going to lift it straight back up again, but without going something like that, you know, leaning backwards or any sort of counterbalance. That indicates you put weight forward and then you pushed it back again, so that's no good. You need to step up. Okay, so I'm cool. I'm totally centered. I can place that foot without any problems. Once I know I can do that, then I'll start going up and come into posture for that final move. So as I say, the second way, the first way, as I said, all slow. Second way, step slowly and then do a little strike on the end of that movement. So you can do the weight shift and the strike as a slightly faster movement. But however, I always recommend, even in your own training, within the basics, do it all slowly first and then move on to some little fast movements such as these major component strikes. So, whether you're doing it slowly or fast, you've got to recoil back. So we don't want to go, see, and just be dead. We want to go, see that? So imagine like I was saying earlier about the punch. We don't punch and stay there. We go, and it recoils back a little bit. Now, depending on the application, sometimes it will mean you'll recoil right back in, depending on what's happening next, depending on what's happened previously, and so on. In the case of this one, and well, most of the Bagua postures, we want to get the idea of the strike, but at the same time we want to complete the posture to make sure we're getting all the right stretches happening in that posture. So I wouldn't want to go like and straight into something else. We want to really dedicate to that posture to get the correct stretches and mechanics happening in the body. So when I do it, I'm going to coil back. I'm going to turn to my right, but see, just back to center. I'll do it to the front. See that? So I haven't gone like this. I haven't turned to the front and then recoiled to here, for example. See, now I'm open in my stance. I need to turn into the front. Well, my waist and shoulders and upper body sort of, let's exaggerate it a little so you can see. Let's say I turn past the front, so my center's over here. See, and just back to center. So all I'm saying is make sure you do the strike and recoil back from it. Imagine and I'm going into a bit more detail here because this principle will apply to all the strikes, at least all the pumping action strikes. If it's a centrifugal action, that won't happen because it'll spin around back into the next strike. But anything that's pumping out from your body, this is where you have to have some form of recoil to what you're doing. So just make sure you twist from your center to drive that hand forward. In the case of this move, it's also pulling that right shoulder backwards, which is pulling that right hand towards you. You'll see again in the applications in a moment when I show those as to what you're actually doing with that posture. But you're pulling and pushing, pulling someone onto that strike. And at the end of the strike, settle, but your end point is to settle to the front. So never hold it locked, but also don't settle to the side. We want, you see? So everything's still locked into the front. I'm still feeling this nice stretch and pull down my rear thigh. A nice squeezing compression down the front of the body. Okay, second palm change. Second palm change. We start the same, what we've already shown, that one there. The difference this time is we've got someone else rushing in at us. So we've got two people now, okay? So I've just dealt with the guy, I've smacked him with the neck crushing movement, but as I hit this guy in the neck, Chris comes through to my open region, because this is open, yeah, that's it, with a low rib shot in there. So rather than, I'm not going to break this guy's neck, because otherwise I'm going to be hit. So, boom, I've hit him, I go, forget this guy, as he comes in, you see, and comes straight through here with this strike, like so. So in this case, rather than doing the neck break, the solo form is the same. You're not doing anything different in the solo form, but the application is different for this particular movement. So I've struck him across the arm here, across neg one, like so, and again, dependent on the angle of his body will depend on where we're striking. In this case, I'm striking straight down into the lower rib portion in here, probably gallbladder 24 or liver 14 or liver 13, and so on. There's many different points in there you can get. If he's a little bit more front on, if he's not turned twisted so far, then of course you could come straight down to the center of the body, into the groin with that strike. Okay, from here, we come forward into this posture, like so. Now there's two different ways of doing this in application, depending on how your partner is holding his guard. Remember, when we do any movements that involve some kind of a go around and get him sort of a application, you have to assume you've already hit the guy first. If, for example, let's say hypothetically I'd taken this block and I'd put this in, but maybe, I don't know, Chris blocked it or something, so it's just some kind of a block there, right? I wouldn't from this position try to come into some kind of a locking application because I haven't hit him yet. If he stopped my hand, his next move is going to try to hit me. So if I think lock him up, he's going to start punching me, you see? So you've got to hit him first, then, you see? That's what we're getting there with, see? Pulling and pushing with that one there. So, we're assuming we got him in this application, like so. We're assuming now we're rushing forward. Now, in the form, of course, we take a step forward into the posture. In application, obviously, the footwork's always going to vary dependent on where your partner is. So, in this case, I could just take a change step, you see. If I smashed him there, maybe he might get knocked back and take a step, in which case I have to follow him up. So that's going to vary dependent on what your opponent does. But this hand, from that groin strike, it's just going to slip straight up under his arm and lock his shoulder in, like so. As I do that, I'm going to yank him forward, damaging his shoulder, and come straight up underneath his solar plexus into the center of his body, right? Not in the hard part here, just where it goes soft, up under there, boom, with the heel palm coming up. Now, as I say, for me personally, I'm finding that a little bit low. As you can see, I'm a little bit cramped up. So I could do the same application and stick my fingers into his neck. The way we do it in the form is assuming the palm strike. But in this case, because I'm taller, I can stick my fingers in his neck. If Chris were to do that to me, around the back of my shoulder, now that fits nicely, you see? So again, the application will vary dependent on the heights of the people. Okay, so that's the fierce tiger. Now we go into the colourful rooster stretches his leg, or as it's known in most by most WTBA members, we just call it the chicken posture. We abbreviate a lot of the Bagua names because they're quite long. So this is the chicken posture. Called so, if you've seen any, well, pretty much all birds do it actually. It's not just roosters that do it. But when they they wake up in the morning, they put their wing out and they stretch their leg like so. If you've seen any birds, I grew up on a farm, so I saw the chickens doing it, budgerigars, all the birds in the background. You'd always see all the birds. They stretch their wing out and stretch out their rear leg just for a morning stretch. That's why it's got that name, just to give you the idea, the mindset. This kind of a posture, of course, plays no direct meaning to a martial application. The posture does have martial applications, but not done as it's done, as I'll explain in the martial part of the video. So, from here, our next move is like so. Okay? Notice how I've kept the heel on the circle, on the circumference. So when I step backwards, I'm not stepping straight backwards because then I'll miss the circle. I've got to step backwards at a slight curve. See, because I've got to follow the circle. And this will align the hips and the waist correctly for the posture. This is why it's important to have the circle. If you just step straight back, you're going to have the wrong alignment of the feet, which will align the hips incorrectly. So you've got to trace that line back. You're not going that far. You're going, I don't know, maybe 10 inches to a foot. Obviously this will depend on your own size. If you're a really huge tall guy, the step's going to be larger than if you're a shorter person. So I can't really give you an exact place there. The ruling for this posture is that it is an upright posture. I wouldn't do this posture like something like that, for example, into like a big low movement. It's not a low posture, it's a medium posture. So as I say, there's no exact alignment because everyone's legs are different sizes. But just take the idea of the posture by looking at how I'm standing there and think, okay, I've got a roughly that. A little rule you can give yourself is that in this posture, you should be able to, without any effort, kick upwards with that left foot from that position. Even though we don't do that in the form, that's not a part of the form, but it's just a little guideline as to if you're doing the posture correctly. So if I go down into this, I can still kick my leg up, but not with any real power in it. We train that actually with a bag. We get someone else to hold a kick bag here like so, and we say, okay, you got to hold here, use your body as a counter pendulum like so, and kick upwards with the back of the calf and heel area into the bag. So if I sit down here, I won't get any real power into that strike. But also go by the other guideline of that it's just a medium posture, because I don't know, there's probably someone out there who can do that low posture and still get power in the kick if they're very flexible and strong. So I would just say it's a medium upright posture. Okay, so details of that. I'll do it the opposite direction so you can see what's happening with the hands. So the steps I've already explained. Just let the foot trace back on the circle. So your feet are roughly in the same stance you were already in. It's just lengthened, but also because it's tracing the leg backwards, because it's tracing the circle backwards and following it, so it's curving, this means that the angle in the feet will be slightly different as well. So if let's just say hypothetically my feet were parallel, if I go backwards, they're going to be a little bit more opened. So they're less parallel. So in this stance, they're sort of just off parallel. In my next stance, you see like that, because the foot has swept slightly to the rear, they're a little bit more open than parallel. Okay, the weighting stays the same. In this posture, we're about 70% in the front leg. And as I go down into this posture, I'm still approximately 70% in the front leg. So you see my center of gravity has roughly stayed the same. I haven't gone something like that. Now my center of gravity is shifted. Nor have I sunk down further into this leg. I've simply dropped the weight where it is and lengthened my other leg to the rear. So possibly your weight would actually be maybe, I guess you could say it's 80% maybe in the front leg now. So it's fractionally more forward, simply because you effectively drop your center of gravity where it is, you see, but lengthen the rear leg to the rear. So I do not in any way move towards that leg. I drop my body where it is and lengthen that leg, indicating that there's a little bit more pressure now in that right thigh. Okay, the palms. The left hand is fairly simple. Well, both hands are fairly simple actually. It's the stretch, it's the body shape, which is the difficult thing about this posture. So I'll just quickly show you the hands first because they're fairly simple. Okay, so that's all you got to do. Just follow your leg back and slap, like so. So you're just striking with an open palm, like so. And your left fingers are roughly over your left knee, like that. So don't have it over here, in other words. Have it out there, so you're opening your chest in this particular posture. If I do the hand here, I'm not getting any opening in the shoulder. So pull it right back, and so it's roughly over the knee, like so. The right hand drops down, literally right from where it is. It just pushes straight down, and you rest your fingers in on top of your hip bone, like so. You don't push your fingers in, but you don't hold them out like this either. You literally sit your fingers there, and watch what I do. Here's me holding my hand in position. Now watch. See, I'm just kind of relaxing my arm. I'm relaxing the weight of my arm to let it press into my hip. There is an idea that perhaps I'm activating some energy channels in this portion of the body. That could very well be true. I'm not denying that that's a true thing. However, for me, the main purpose of putting the hand here is simply to help to align the body, to get the right stretches happening in the rest of the body. If you don't put the hand there, you may not know where to put the hand. So we place the hand there to cause the right stretches to happen in the posture. But as I say, the original classic way of doing it was to stick the fingers in there, so there is possibly another area where we are activating a certain point. We're activating around about, what would that be, gallbladder 25, 26, something like that. So yeah, there is possibly some idea behind it in that respect as well. Okay, but as I say, I'm teaching this from a structural point of view. So what we're going to get here is, as you drop down into the posture, everything all happens at once. See? Now you'll notice the attitude of the posture. It's almost kind of a proud attitude, I guess you could say, because it's the colourful rooster. I guess that's probably another reason why they use the rooster. Even though all the birds stretch their legs, the rooster is very proud. He sticks his chest out, and he's, you know, the kingpin kind of thing, with his big, you know, crest on the top. So that gives you, again, the idea of the posture. We shouldn't do the posture like this, see, or even like this. It's proud in the posture. Not because I want to teach you to be proud. You want to be humble in your movements. However, it just physically gives you the right stretches happening in the posture. So what we want to be feeling in this posture is a big stretch all the way down this left side of your, primarily the leg, but also up into your torso through here. A twist in the spine, which we've already talked about, and an opening of the chest and shoulders. So a lot of the stuff we do in martial arts is here, is closed. So a lot of martial artists tend to get hunched shoulders. So we have to make sure, if we're doing a lot of martial art practice, to do a lot of opening movements, either in our forms, or you might just do other exercises, you know, weightlifting, weight training, things like that, to open up your shoulders and make sure you're maintaining balance in your body. So if you practice, well, any martial art that you practice, hopefully, if it's a decent martial art, should create balance in your body, whether that be left and right or front and back, open and closed and all that sort of thing. However, what a lot of people do is they tend to focus on the things they like in the martial art. So a lot of people might just like to do a lot of bag work or something, so they're very closed the whole time, and so they're not doing any of this, not doing their forms, for example. other training methods. It's not just having to do forms. There are, in our Tai Chi large sansao, for example, it's a martial form, a two-person training method, but it involves a lot of pulls. And anytime you do a pull with one arm, that's activating backwards. It's not coming forwards. So that's giving you that balance. So just keep that in mind in your own training. If you feel like you're slightly hunched in the shoulders, like we said in the Qigong lesson, you need to think about doing a bit more work on your back. But if you're a bit like this, walking around, well then you need to do a bit more on your front and stretch your back. So always find balance in your training. Okay, so the posture itself, let's have a look at it. Our hips, notice how the hips are basically facing where the feet are facing, like so. So somewhere obviously, as I say, the feet are not parallel, so they're not facing the same direction. But the hips are somewhere just in between the two lines of where your toes are pointing. So they're basically to the front, this way. Do not open your hips to the side like this. Close your hips in, tuck your pelvis under. Your upper body though, from your waist, not from your shoulders. This is my shoulders turning, you see? I'm just turning from here. We've already talked about this. Remember, we spiral up through the body. So we turn from the lower portion, then the mid portion, then the upper portion. Everything spirals to get that twist happening from the bottom up, not just the top part. So we've got to twist primarily from here, from our belly, like that. See how my hips are staying to the front. So I'm getting my body's attitude to look back towards my long leg, like that, but my hips are still facing to the front, like so. Maintain your sweet spots in your feet, in both feet, not just your standing leg. So be careful of your rear leg not to sag it in like this and come to the edge. Find your sweet spot like we did in the Qigong. Maintain pelvis tuck, maintain head upright, like so. Now, in this case, we're actually going to fractionally lean backwards. Lean backwards is not the right way to say it, actually. We're not leaning backwards like this. We're arching the back a little bit. Don't overdo it. You're just, I would say express from the chest as opposed to arch the back. Don't think arch the back. That's giving you a bum steer there. Don't think tilt here. Think express here. You see? Push out from the chest, which will in turn arch your back slightly as a byproduct. But the intention should be here to express rather than here to tilt. Okay? So express from the chest, hold both your shoulders back. This is a very important concept. A lot of people, even though they're doing this, the right shoulder particularly, might hunch forward like that. You see? So we have to hold that shoulder back. Hold the left, basically hold both your shoulders like, remember I explained in the Qigong when I showed you how the back works? Don't let your shoulders hunch. Pull your shoulders back, even though the movement is compressing in the front, and so it's slightly trying to draw that shoulder in. You've got to use your waist to draw the shoulder into the right position, not your chest, because your chest is opening, it's not closing in this particular movement. So, if I say stand here, put your hand on your hip. Now I'm going to tell you, put your right elbow over top of your right knee. Wrong. You see, that's just my arm moving. Nothing's coming from the center and I'm losing all my structure. This is now in a very weak position to be in. Notice how my hand on my hip now is on the side as well, because it's disaligned. The front of the fingers should be pointing into the hip, not the side of the palm. So, what have I got to do? I've got to twist from my center, from my waist. So I turn from my waist. Now I've got the alignment, knee, elbow, knee, toe. Front of the fingers are still into the hip. Shoulder is still opened, it's not hunched, so you've still got your shoulder back, like so. And left palm is pointing down to your left knee, like so. So it's a little bit of a tricky posture to get into. So what I recommend is get into the posture first, try to feel what it's like, even try to have a friend, align your body or look in a mirror or something to try to get the alignment. Then think about trying to do it within the form and sort of, doing it as it's done in the form, like flowing into it. You need to just stand there and go, right, okay, this has got to go there, this has got to be here, this has got to be here. Find your position, feel it out, see what it feels like, and then try to get into that feeling from the previous posture. One other thing I'll say about the posture itself, don't let this happen, you see, leaning forward. Keep your body upright, like so. So do not lengthen your body down like this. You're relieving the stretch when you do that. You want to hold your body up, you'll increase the stretch here and stretch that back. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention, another thing that will help you to get into the right position is try to look at your left hand. But you have to look at your left, well, you have to try to look at your left hand. You shouldn't be able to see it because it's hidden by your shoulder. But you try to look at that left hand, but see how I'm looking over the back of the shoulder to try to see the hand. I can see the hand easily if I look this way, but that's holding the posture incorrectly. So if you go, okay, I've got to look over the back of my shoulder, trying to look at my hand, don't try too hard and do a back bend, but just kind of tilt and go, oh yeah, okay, that's where it is back there. That's the attitude to the posture. You see the head slightly tilted, stretching the neck, and we're in the posture like that. So look over the back of your shoulder towards your palm, but of course you can't see your palm, it's hidden by your shoulder. Okay, so going into the posture, what will happen when you're doing it slowly is you'll step back, you see, so your leg is slightly leading the palms. That will happen also even if you're doing it fast. Your leg will hit the ground just before the palm would strike, but it becomes closer together. So if I did that fast, like so, the foot still hit the ground just before the palm, but you can't even see that. It looks like it's together. So everything kind of happens together in that posture when you do it fast. But you're not going to try to do this posture fast. This is an extreme posture, so just do it nice and easy. Let the foot slip back, let the left hand follow the leg, and the right hand just guide down towards your hip. As soon as you move, you gaze backwards over your shoulder. That's one of the first things that happens. And you sink your weight down lower, so you drop your weight in that right thigh. You see how the leg got there? Because of course the leg is, it's like that. It's a weighted step, so you can't do it slowly. This is one of those postures. We're not doing something like, you know, touching it without putting any weight, because I don't want to move my weight forward, you see. I want to just drop it. So you're doing it softly and gracefully. You're not plonking your weight down, but it is a weighted step. So don't think you, like I said before about this step, you should be able to pick it back up. This step does not apply that principle because I never shifted my weight forward, so there's no way I can step because it's a weighted leg. I never took my weight off the leg in the first place. So, as you do it, just gracefully step back, place your toe onto the ground and then let your heel rest into the ground. If you were going to do it fast, the foot would just place on the ground flat. You would literally pick the foot up and put it straight back down on the ground, and the heel would push straight into the floor. But if you're doing it slowly and gracefully, you see the heel will roll in this case, and you'll place the toe down and then roll the heel. So the heel will, of course, end up back on the circumference of the circle. And then your palm follows you down. The left hand, which was yang, it must go yin and then yang, of course. Don't just go like that. So it's got to change, and then back to yang. The front hand, which is yin, it just goes straight down to yang. So nothing too complex to look at there. So that's what we're looking at with this particular posture. I'm twisted into the front. I turn my body and come into this nice stretching action like that. Again, don't worry about developing power or anything like that in this posture. It is a stretch. Later we can apply power through the posture for the application, but for now think of it as a stretching body development movement. As I explained in the martial application, if you were going to perform it as a martial application, you wouldn't be doing the stretching elements of the posture, so the posture would look slightly different in its martial components. Okay, from there, we've struck him in like so. Run this way again. So we've got the chicken posture next. So, like so. Okay, from here, I've locked his shoulder in. Remember, I've hit him twice now already, so he's already starting to sort of go down a bit. A movement like this would never work if he was still sound of mind. If I've gone bang and he hasn't gone down at all, if you just resist me now, just hold your body, I'm not going to be able to do that, even if I get the right leverage and he just braced himself. There's no way I'd be able to apply a movement like that. You can't apply a lock to someone. Locks and holds in the system, there's only two ways of applying any kind of a lock or a hold of some kind. One is he throws an attack, bang, we hit him, bang. Now I can do with him what I want because I've hit him. He's, you know, for that split second he's gone out of it. You could maybe, if the guy doesn't, you know, this is assuming the guy doesn't really know what he's doing, any good martial artist shouldn't be able to allow a lock onto him unless he's been hit. But let's say he's throwing the punch in, as it's coming in, maybe I could catch it and apply a lock if I'm very skilled in locks. But never could you sort of come in and then think, right, I'm going to lock your arm up, because he's aware of it. He's just going to brace up and not let you. But we struck him in the groin, we struck him in here or into the neck. So my next posture, you see? So I'm going to drop my weight, damaging the side of his knee as well, like so. And basically I'm just throwing him down into the floor, damaging his shoulder, like so. So that's putting him down into that position. Out to the rear, he's coming through with a left punch in, again, so my open area here, straight into my kidneys, like so. So I'm going to, as I drop this guy down, like so, you see? Now, if I'm lucky enough, it's a difficult posture to realistically pull off, but if I'm lucky enough, I could slip that into his ribs, like so. Again, assuming I've got a long enough arm. If Chris were doing that same kind of move to me, just like a backward block, like so, he probably wouldn't be able to reach, you see, because I can reach him, but he can't reach me. So again, this will vary. So it's primarily, he comes in with that punch, it's primarily a block. But remember, it's not a lateral block, because then you've got no chance of getting a strike in. It's a forward block, it's a slipping block. So if you're close enough, you can at least do something to him. Better to put him off, give him a tickle if you want, that'll put him off. Yeah, so that's what we're looking at there. Keep in mind, as I've said in the solo form, it's a stretch. It's not a martial application. You're not going to stand like this in a real fight. This is for the stretching health side of things. The applicational variation of doing it, he comes in with that. Sorry. You see? I'm going to look something more like this. I'm going to just get to position myself where I need to be. But it just gives you the idea of what's happening in the application. But remember, we're doing the form for the health and body conditioning and body strengthening focus when we're doing the solo form. Okay. Right, coming out of it, I'll go back onto the correct direction of the circle, like so. Okay, watch the right, well, watch both feet. So we're over there like that, watch the feet. See that? I'm in a toe stance now, like so. But notice I swiveled on the right heel. Trying to find a little soft point in the ground here. There's a whole bunch of sharp rocks right under my heel. Okay, so, see that? Turn on your heel. We want to maintain forward intention. If you swivel on your toe, it sends you backwards. Another reason we swivel on the heel, I may or may not have mentioned this, so I'll mention it again, is to develop strength in the lower leg. When you swivel on the toe, that's the easy way to do things. Not to say it's wrong, because sometimes we do swivel on the toes. But it is the easier way to do things in most cases, because when you swivel on the toe, there's no tension, no muscular, you don't need to pull something up in order to swivel on your toes. Whereas when you swivel on the heels, because your weight's going into that leg, because your legs are bent, you've got to pull up your toes. Yeah, I did say something about this when we talked about the inside and outside change, remember? When we were like this, I said you have to lift your toes in the air and then allow them to plant back into the ground. So you've got to squeeze them up, developing all that muscle tissue down the front of your thigh. So this is why there's quite a lot of heel swivels, but they also represent the martial application, how you should do it. I'm not saying it's only for muscular development and otherwise swivel on your toes. The movement is done, some movements toe, some movements heel, for the purpose of the martial application and the power development, but also you're developing the fronts of your legs when you swivel on the heel, and when you swivel on the toes, you're of course developing the backs of your legs, because you've effectively got weight in your toes, so therefore you're activating your calves. Okay, so you've got to have that balance throughout the form. In the case of this move, I'm swiveling on the right heel and the left toe. So the heel comes around, roughly about 90 degrees swivel, like so. Okay, but you've got to do it and sink your weight. I mean, your weight's already forward, but you've got to sink your weight into that leg 100%. So as I swivel, you see now I'm totally centered in that rear leg. So I've shifted my weight into that leg as I swivel. The rear leg just sucks in like so, just traces the circle. You see, so the toe just pulls in like that. The heel is just off the ground of that rear foot, or now front foot. So that's what you've got to do. You've got to squeeze the quad, we call it, this area here. So don't just, see, nothing's happening now. As you twist from your center to turn your body around, you see, you squeeze in here to draw that foot in, like so. You see? So there's a little bit of tension in there. It's not just sloppy. But at that point, as I say, there is no weight left in that front foot. There's a little bit of traction on that front foot, there's a pressure from that front foot, but no weight. The same as I said in the walking, I think. Remember when I said we'd spun around on the outside change and I explained to squeeze the quad to stop you from falling over afterwards. We squeeze. Even though there's no body weight in that front foot, we squeeze, so there is a pressure, but it's a muscular pressure, not a body weight pressure. So with a muscular pressure, you can still lift the foot at any moment without falling over. Same thing here, only it's a little bit less because it's only a toe stance. So there's just a little squeeze from that front leg into the ground, but do not put any of your body weight into that foot. Okay, so that's what your legs are doing. Squeeze the quad, swivel on the heel, pull up your toes when you swivel on the heel like we did in the walking, and just drag this foot in. When you drag it in, just drag it in where it naturally comes to. Don't pull it in like this, backwards. The shin should have a forward angle to it as a rough guideline. So when it comes in, you see, just let it drag back because of what the hip's doing. Don't pull it in using your hamstrings. It's only a small movement. Okay, what your hands are doing. The right hand does nothing, so don't worry about that. Just leave it where it is. It's set out here to the rear as you do the movement. It just stays there, doing nothing, holding its structure, maintaining that nice shoulder back position. Don't let it hunch forward, as I've already explained. The left hand, however, that's what's doing the work. So from here, I'll just show you what the hand does. Watch what the hand does. So we're going to lift up. There's the strike, you see. So it's not a vertical strike. It's. I'll do it to the camera. Imagine a punch is coming in here to the side of your head or something. So you're cutting up and cutting on the inside of the punch. So the punch is coming from this side, you see. So you're chopping into the side of his arm like so. You're attacking with this portion of the arm. As soon as it gets there, though, see that? And then forward. So you're pulling him slightly off balance. You're yanking his arm forward. You'll see this in the martial application in a minute. So strike there. That's the yang position of the hand as it comes up. Bang. Grab, so the fingers coil in like we did with this posture at the beginning of the form. So we're going to coil that hand in, and this is as the body is retracting, you see. So the body is pulling that arm back, not just the arm pulling it back. And then there's the tuck, and then as the hand pushes forward, we're going to go into the next posture, which is the slap step forward. Well, it's not actually the next posture, it's all one posture, but obviously there's a squeeze in and then a slap forward. What you've got to look at with reference to what the hand does, two things to focus on. Watch how far the hand pulls back, for starters. See that? So I didn't go like this. I didn't draw the hand in like so. You'll see in the martial application, you don't want to pull your opponent right into your face. You just want to just do that to him. Just pull on his arm just to jar his neck, to open up his throat. That's all you want to do. It's a jerking motion, not a pulling in motion. So the hand effectively lifts up and just digs like that, pretty much on the spot. But your body is moving backwards, you see. So there is a slight motion of the hand coming back, but see, it's because the body is sitting back, not because I'm drawing the arm in. The second thing to think of is, don't pause after this and then do the forward movement. Simply because if there's the pull, you see, you don't want to pull his neck, and then let him pull it back in again. You want to poke him in the throat as he's coming forward. So you've got to strike there, there's the defensive action, pull in, strike. See, it's one movement, one continuous movement. See that? A nice flow, watch the hand. Don't let the hand stop. The lower body has to effectively do two things. They're still flowing together, but they're a bit more distinctive. You've got a squeeze in and an obvious step forward into the next posture. Whereas the hand is seemingly to do one movement because it's all circular, you see, and it spirals into the next posture, and that would be coming into like a number one hand, like so. So what you've got to do is you've got to maintain flow in the hand, even though the legs kind of feel like they're going 1, 2. Don't allow your hand to go 1, 2. So it works like this. You see, the hand never stopped moving. It was a constant flow of movement. And there's the following action. Obviously that's doing it a little bit faster with a bit more intention to the strike on the end of the movement. So that's what the hand's doing. The right hand stays in its place, as I said. So we come up, I'll just break it down now into sections. As you start to turn, naturally that hand strikes up. There. There's no real exact key points here to focus on. Just make sure that your hand is moving in time with your feet. So as soon as you start pulling in, your hand starts lifting up, and you should get to your rearmost point, so the apex of the scoop before the strike comes out. At the same time your feet get to the apex of the squeeze. So I squeeze the legs and draw the hand with the scoop. You see, there's scoop and squeeze. Now I'm just pausing there just to show you what's happening, but don't obviously stop there in application. Now I can step forward and release from the waist, like so, into the next movement. Okay, so let's have another look at that. From here, squeeze up as you strike. Make sure the strike, by the way, is here, over the circumference. Don't let the strike go somewhere out here. I'll just do it to the camera again so you can see what I'm talking about. The hand stays, I mean, obviously there is a little bit of a curvature there to the movement, but it stays roughly over the top of your long leg. So don't go like this, in other words. See, I've come right out to the side. I'm just going to cut I'm basically going to cut straight up the center, little coil on the top, and poke through. Like so, hold the shoulder back. So just think like there's your center over your knee, and maybe like a dinner plate size or a large clock size. That's your sort of circle there, and then you poke through the center of the dinner plate as you come up. So we go tracing. See, the fingers are tracing the side, going counterclockwise in this case. Backwards up through 3 o'clock, up to 12 o'clock, down to 9 o'clock, to 6 o'clock, and then straight through the center of the circle as you come up. Like so. This one's sat there. Weight's all in the back foot still after the step. Okay, slap stepping. When we step forward, slap stepping is a training tool to activate our kidney 1 point, which is just here, roughly, just between the bones, the mounts of the big toe and the next toe. So it's between those two tendons and bones there, just behind the mount, the ball of the foot. So just where the clean bit meets the dirty bit, just in there is kidney 1. So we're activating kidney 1. Now I think I already explained about activating kidney 1 by sucking the feet up. That's kind of a yin activation of kidney 1 to draw energy up through the ground. Now what we're doing is a more yang activation of kidney 1 to send energy from that kidney 1 into the body. So when we do it like this, it's kind of a calm activation, I guess you could say. When we slap the foot, it's a fiery activation of that kidney 1 point. So we're going to slap it on the ground. Don't do it too hard. Depending on the surface and your footwear depends on how hard you should do the slap. If I were wearing a big training shoe like a Nike or something, or a Teva, I don't like Nikes. Okay, you would have to slap your foot harder because you'd You need to feel something. So if I slap my foot like that, that's nice, just what I did then. That was a decent sort of feeling that came through my foot. I felt a little percussive shock come up through that kidney 1 point. Could probably go a little bit harder, like so. However, if I was on here on the road behind the camera, I'd do it softer because the road is solid, it's not a soft carpet. In which case, if I did it that hard, I may hurt my foot. So if you do it too hard that it goes, oh, that really hurt my foot. I thought there was a fish attacking me. If it hurts your foot, effectively what you're getting then is there's a tsunami coming. Oh, a boat must. Did you see a boat go past? I think a boat must have just gone past. Yeah, there's a boat over there. Sorry if that's a bit loud, but it's a nice sound anyway. Okay, where was I? Slapping. Yes, if you slap your foot too hard, you actually block the point from releasing any energy. So we don't want to smash it into the ground. It's too much for it. But we don't want to just go like that. Nothing happened then, you see. Think of it like massage. If you massage someone with nothing, they don't feel anything. But if you push so hard that they tense up, well then that's not going to do them any good either. So you've got to find that balance between the two. That's going to be different for every person. As I say, if you're wearing shoes, you've got to slap your foot harder. If you're on a very hard surface with bare feet, you can slap your foot lighter. But the motion of the movement is what we want to look at here. You must get, for starters, it's a shuffle. It's the best analogy that you may have seen in other systems is fencing, when they sort of shuffle their weight forward. They don't actually slap their foot, I don't think, but it's a shuffle step, like so. We're going to do that, but with a slap on the front of the foot. So what I'm saying is, place your front foot before the rear foot moves. This is a common error when people see it done fast, like that. What people see is they get it confused and they try to move this back leg like this or something, you see. You're not jumping off your back leg. You are slapping your front foot, big spiky rock right through the center of my foot. Be careful when you're on an unaware ground, when you're doing your slap steps. So a rocky ground like this is not ideal for doing slap steps, obviously. Grass is the best thing you can do on because you've got that connection to the ground, it's got that slight softness under it, but it's still solid. But this was the only area I could actually find today where I could do some filming. It is a beautiful area for filming, but it is a bit rocky and uneven. Anyway, slap your foot. What was I saying? Yes, slap your foot first, then the rear foot comes up. So your left foot, or your front foot, is clearly planted on the ground, 1, 2, okay? Do not move your rear foot until your front foot has hit the ground. When we shuffle, we do not bring the weight forward. Of course, a little bit of controlling weight goes into that front foot. You see? It's just that little tiny portion of weight, but don't go like, you see? I've clearly put my body weight. Your body weight should never transfer over that foot. See, look at where my center of gravity is over this leg. As I slap forward, you see? There's that little forward motion, but effectively my body weight is sitting on that back foot, like you're just coming forward like this, you see? With the slap. Now, how to actually do the slap, that's the flick, by the way. How to do the slap, you've got to loosen the leg, particularly the ankle, but at the same time hold structure within it. Like when we strike, we don't strike like totally loose. You'll end up pulling a tendon if you strike totally loose. So when people say you've got to be totally relaxed when you strike, that's a very incorrect thing to say. Or it's not really, I don't like to say it's incorrect, but it's a misunderstanding, simply because if you totally relax, you will jar your shoulder if you throw a hard punch. So you've got to be loose and fluid in your movement when you throw a punch, but at the same time you're maintaining your structure. I've got good core structure in my body as I'm doing that looser movement. It's the same thing with the ankle. Watch what the foot does. It's like the cat step that we did earlier. Let the foot roll up, so the knee is sort of moving up first. It's coming from the hip, of course. The hip is moving up like so, which pulls the knee up, which pulls the ankle up. And it's like, whoa, like that. It throws forward and slaps. That's why it's called a slap step. It's not a stomp. So, I'll just show, maybe I'll show you this way actually. Okay, so, let the hip, I'll exaggerate it. Let the hip push up, which pushes the knee forward, which lifts the heel. Probably the best thing that'll get you to get it is when your foot hits the ground, it's got to hit the ground like it's trying to pull you forward. And that's actually what happens. Don't hit the ground like that, you see? That's like it's trying to push me backwards. So when my foot hits the ground, the pressure on my foot is like it wants to go that way. When my foot hits the ground, it should be hitting the ground like this. You see, like it's drawing back to me. But rather than it drawing back to you and giving you carpet burn, like that, you're going to hit the ground and then allow that pull back feeling to actually pull you forward instead of it coming back. Of course, there's got to be some thrust from the rear leg as well. I can't get enough traction there to physically pull myself forward, but that's the idea. It's like it leads you forward, kind of like you're leading a horse. You don't physically pull the horse forward, you just kind of pull it a little bit and the horse goes, oh, okay, I'll come this way. So the horse is doing the work. This is the horse, this is the bridle. So, pull on the bridle, and the horse comes with you, you see? So the mass comes behind. So it's actually the mass causing the movement to happen. This is the same thing when we do stepping actions as well. If I do a step, as I said before, see there? There's the bridle. That's the center controlling the movement. I like this analogy. I've just come up with it. I'm going to use this from now on. This is the bridle pulling on the horse's head, which is where I used to live. The leg itself, obviously, these muscles in the leg are the things physically drawing the foot forward, and obviously up into the center here as well in your core. But it's the twist of the waist that just tells the leg what to do. So therefore the movement, it's not physically, this little center point of my body is not the thing physically lifting my leg in the air, causing it to step forward, but it is the thing that's telling it, giving it direction, and that's what connects our whole body together, rather than the leg just sort of, sitting out doing its thing by itself. The whole body must connect as a unit. Okay, back to slapping. Back to bridle slapping horses' heads. Okay, hold your body strong, nice and upright. Slap the foot so that it's coming back towards yourself. You should feel it on the ball of the foot. If you feel the heel hitting the ground, you know you're doing it wrong. The whole foot hits the ground, the whole foot hits flat. I'm not saying you hit like this with the heel up. Your whole foot hits the ground flat, like that, you see? But because of the backward action on it, this naturally places the pressure of the strike on the front portion, on the ball of the foot. So you should feel that slap on the ball of your foot. Okay, so that's what we're looking at here. We're looking here and then shuffle that rear foot into your front foot. Shuffle your rear foot into your front foot. No, that's not what I meant. I don't know why I said that. Shuffle your rear foot so it's just under your center of gravity, like so. So you're totally in the back foot. Okay, the rest of your body, it's the footwork that's the main thing there. The right hand still just stays where it is, holding its structure. The left hand, which has done its little draw in, like so. Keep your head aligned. Don't let this happen. Nice and strong. We're going to now do what's called a vertical movement. Later on, some waist components come in as well, but in the beginning, we focus on the most important element to get you to understand. So we've already done lots of, like the previous move, that's a waist-driven action. So we're focusing primarily on the waist movement in that action, even though there will be later some spinal action in that posture. But the main focus is the waist-driven action. This posture is the opposite. We're going to focus on the spine-driven action, the vertical process, even though later some waist opening and closing movements will apply to it as well. So basically, all movements will always have a component of both, but their focus is a little bit more on one or the other. So hence we focus on the part which is the most inherent in that posture, so that you get an idea of doing some vertical movements, doing some twisting, thrusting movements, doing some sweeping actions, doing some lifting actions, and then later on it all sort of intertwines into one flowing set of movements. Okay, so with that slap step, just effectively the best thing to do is let your body follow the motion of the foot. So to get this foot to go, see that? If you let your foot out, because your foot's lifting, I'll exaggerate it a little, your hips kind of come forward, so your head kind of goes. That's kind of what you're doing, but not like that, of course. Don't do it exaggerated like that. It's just very subtle. If you just do the slap step, see that? There's just that slight wave in your body. You could kind of say when you slap your foot out, your body almost gets left behind, and then as the foot hits the ground, your body comes back to vertical again, and that's what thrusts your palm out. So from here we get, you see, open, close, center. So it's a backward, forward, center kind of a movement that we're looking at there. See? But very, very subtle. If you exaggerate it, you'll lose your structure, you'll lose all your power. Okay, so it's got to be a very subtle move. As I said, it's probably best to not even think about that in the beginning, but to focus solely on the step. Just hold your hand where it is, do the step, and just think, put your mind on jabbing with your fingers, straightforward, very simple movement, and just do the step. You see? You pretty much can't do the step without letting your body do that little tilting action, that vertical power movement. So, see? See, because your body's slightly closed as you come up. See, you're pulling in, so you're slightly closed, and then you get open, close, and then just center at the end. So you're closed, open, closed, center. What it looks like is just that. You want to do it, of course, enough so you feel the slap. You can also do this very slowly. There's nothing wrong with doing it like that. But this would be one of the postures, even as a beginner, I would recommend doing this posture relatively slowly. And at least that, just a little out breath with your, squeeze your belly when you breathe out, little pat on the fingers, little snap on the end of your fingers, and of course that slap on the palm, on the end of the posture. Okay. See? Little out breath. Your out breath must be, you see? It must cause a single syllable sound, like that. Don't go, because that doesn't represent the movement. If my movement was something like that, I could go, you see? That represents what the body's doing. But if my body goes like this, the waist, the sound then should represent that, you see? And because it's a single syllable sound. So come up out of that posture. That's just an in-breath there. Just breathe in. See? If you want to do it with that slap and the more aggressive nature behind it. But, of course, don't do it too much that it causes tension. As I've said, just bring it up. See, that's a little softer, but still with the slap. So don't do it too hard because it can bring excessive tension into your body. Okay. Right, where are we? Carrying on. Oh, foot placement on the circumference. Obviously this rear heel is still on the circle, and now my left toe is just on the circumference of the circle. I'm going to pretty much step straight forward where I am, more or less. So I'm not going to go like this and follow the circle. I'm going to go off at a tangent to the circle. So I'm like so, the left foot is just on the inside of the circle, maybe my big toe is just touching it. I'm going to slap step forward, which means that my heels will now be on the circle, both heels on the circle like so. So my foot, if you can see the circle, you can see, yeah, I'm pretty sure you can see the circle there, like so, that's where I started. I'm going to almost, I guess your heel would be going just in front of where your toe was. because it's not a very far step. You're not jumping over here or something. So just place your heel roughly, so you're doing sort of your own foot length forward. So your heel goes on the circle, your rear foot shuffles up, so both heels are now on the circle. Let me do that posture. Okay, from there, bang. Okay. From there we come up. So we're down like so. We've done that block like so. My next movement is coming up into this posture. He's going to throw, because we're assuming either we've hit him, but it's not going to be a knockout shot, obviously. It's just going to wound him a little bit. So he comes straight through with a right straight punch onto my face there. So I'm down like so. I'm going to hook it up. That's it. Pull him forward into that strike and onto those fingers. So what I'm doing there is just slowly, I'm cutting up and striking straight up into the crease of his arm. You may get, dependent on the angle of his arm, you may get straight up into the side of the biceps here, or under heart 3, which is just into here, into the crease of the elbow. But just aim for the crease of the elbow and you'll be safe with that one. So there's the block, there's the cut, you see. That's the initial movement. But as soon as you've cut, see how it flicks it under and straight into here. Remember, the only way something like that is going to work in an application, if I stop him and now try to pull him forward, he's going to be ready for it. Or he'll probably already be throwing the other punch, in which case it won't work, because no one's just going to throw on single punch. So as he's coming through, you've got to get that movement to work, you see? If he comes through that far, hit him with your elbow. So that's the idea. It's got to be one movement, you see, when we do the posture. You see? Don't go, don't separate the postures. Always one and forward. Okay, so that's that one there. Bang, little tug. Remember, when we tug the arm, we're not trying to go like this, we're not trying to pull him onto us. We're just going, see, just opening his neck a little bit and then sticking your fingers straight into the neck. The hand being here is nothing to do with a martial application, sticking the fingers in the hips. This is to do with learning how to open the shoulder and structure the shoulders. I've already explained about that in the solo. So, yeah, there's no martial in martial application. Obviously, you'd have your other hand out here to the front whilst dealing with this person. Let's get this done, shall we? Okay, so from here, like so, you're going to do the same footwork as this posture that we did in the first palm change. So come up, right, to there like so, slap stepped forward like that. So we're now off at a tangent to the circle. You're going to pick up your left foot, your weight's still in the back foot, you're going to pick up the left foot and turn it in, probably 90 degrees-ish. But it's that same position as before, in that if you put your foot on the circle, turn it 45 degrees in from the circle, like that. But obviously it's just in one motion, like so. So you pick up your foot and place it back down, you see? It's not a swivel like this, it's you actually pick up your foot and put it back down again. So from here, you see? And the right hand has started to come out. The left hand just stays where it is. It just stays in your center. You turn your body into it, you see? So it naturally comes across your body, almost into your shoulder, but it basically doesn't move. You just turn your body into that movement. I'll just move back here slightly. Okay, so we're going off at a tangent. Turn the foot. As you turn the foot, see the right hand's coming through. It's a slapping, well, it's a defensive action. You're slamming with the palm, like so. And that slam is just here, just to the outside of the circumference. Like so. Okay, that's going to follow through, just like we did on the flower hides under the leaf. From there, we're going to hook the right leg around as the right hand hooks around like so. That's what we're going to get. So you see, it's a very similar posture to the flower hiding under the leaf. This is called take flower and connect to wood, I think. Again, there's the description there so you can see for what the correct name is. So bang, that's what we want to get, like so. So there's the strike. That's in time with the foot moving, but it just follows through. You don't stop there. Just like I said you know, from here. We don't stop here. We just flows through and into the next movement. So same thing with this one. You see? Footwork is exactly the same as what we did earlier. So there's a tiny controlling influence in that leg now, though when you step, there's no weight in it, but as your hip fully turns into the posture, just like 1 or 2% of your weight is in that empty leg. Exactly like we did before, only that we're facing into the circle now. Whereas before, obviously, we were on the outside of the circle. So, footwork. That's your footwork. Keep you centering straight into the center. Now, with that move. Okay, left hand stays where it is, right hand strikes like so, fingers pointing out, yang palm. Notice how when the hand comes out, of course, it's yang, so it must go yin first. Don't go that, because then it's dead. There's no movement in that hand. So it's yang here, let it go yin, and then strike, so that you're getting that nice flowing movement happening. In your beginning training, I'm not going into really subtle intricacies with reference to the yin and yang changes in the wrists and in the rest of the body. I'm just giving the more gross changes. So that's an obvious change. If you do this, it's going to feel static and dead to you doing the posture. So it's important to feel that change and let it out in a flowing action. But if the change is really tiny, then I'm not going to tell you about it because it's a little bit too much to take on when you're first studying. The next series after this in advanced Bagua, that's when I'll go into these very subtle changes in the body. Okay, where were we? Here. Right, so turn that in, bang. Just let it come out yin and strike yang. Follow it straight through, hand and foot together. You see? Let's move back here. Okay, so you're pulling something through and striking with your left fingers, like so. But in the form, in the basics, we just simply turn the body, one, and then back to the right. That'll be going into the next posture. Okay. What else can I tell you about this posture? Heels on the circumference, of course. Your right palm, this little nodule of your thumb there, like so, is just underneath your elbow, just to get the correct positioning, so it's not down here somewhere. It's not like flower hides under leaf, which is like this. It's tucked in, like so. That's what's happening, you see. Okay. Your eyes, in this case, kind of follow your body around this way, and as your foot places on the ground, you look back up this way. So that's where your intention is. So at the end of the posture, you're looking up here, out the corner of your eye. I think the rest of it, what we've already done, I've explained that. You're looking over the back. Obviously, this posture, you're just looking forward. So we're here like so. You're coming through. Your eyes are just following where the movement's going, effectively. So you follow the movement through. Your eyes are just following your body. But at the end of the posture, your eyes are looking out the right-hand corner, like so. So I guess you could kind of say your eyes are following your right hand. When you do that posture, you're following it. Don't look down at your hand in this case, but just let your eyes sort of follow your hand, but then just at the end of the posture you look back. It puts your intention where it should be, because the right hand is doing the main work here. So by sort of looking towards that hand, you're bringing the intention in there. But then after the posture's finished, your intention should be back up here. So it's like you just like that when you do the posture. See? It's fairly closed in sort of a posture, but don't hunch into the posture. Still maintain your structure when you're holding it. Okay, from there, what we've got to do, you're on the circle like that, weight's in the left leg, you've turned to your left. You're going to turn to your right and change your weight into your right leg. I don't think I'll do this one without the hands actually, because it's actually easier to understand with the hands. So I'll show you all together. So you've turned to your left, like so. You see you're twisted slightly to the left. You're more or less facing into the center, but a little bit on that side. Okay, just extend your right arm. See how I'm tilting into it? I'm not just staying upright. I'm fractionally compressed in here. Opening through here, compressing through here. Like that. The eyes were already looking this way, so the eyes are now looking up at this right hand. Like we did when we did this posture, we look up at the hand and follow it to make sure the body's getting the right stretches happening. So we throw this arm out, and now, well, where our eyes were already looking, the hand has come into that place, so now we're looking at that hand. But as we do the next move, you actually follow it and look at it and get the sun in your eyes, and then come back over. So, turn from your center, shift your weight. 1. Till that right palm is directly over the circumference of the circle. As soon as it hits the circle, you turn your center back to your left, but see this little tilt thing I've got going on, this compression in here. You keep that compression there, but because you're turning your body to the left, that compression becomes a backward lean, so you keep leaning over that same point. Don't allow your body to go from here and then, for example, I don't know, change into the center or change out here or something like this. You've got to look at that point, focus on that point. When you do this, let's say, for example, I do it towards the camera. You see, so my hand's on the camera. Now watch. See how it's coming vertically over. Get a friend, do that, and then have a friend put their hands like this in front of your hand so that your hand can't deviate like this or like this. It has to go from that line over the top to the other side of the circle. So you hit the line here and literally jump, bunny hop straight over yourself to the other side of the circle. Do not go around either way back to the other side of the circle. Go vertically like a cartwheel, straight back to the other side. So we get this sort of thing happening. And that's your next posture. So turning. As soon as you hit the line, up, that's when you open the hips, you see? So turn to your right. Make sure you don't turn to the left straight away. Turn to your right first. Turning. There. As soon as you hit the line. Watch your knees. Remember, structure in your knees on any difficult postures particularly. Maintain a pelvis tuck, particularly as you start to lean back. Engage here. Do not let this go saggy or you will damage your lower back. This is an extreme posture. If you've got any spine problems, particularly lower spine problems, take it very, very easy. If you've not got anything wrong with your body, then just don't damage your body by not engaging your abs. So you need to engage your abs. So this is nice and strong in that position, and then you draw in from here and pull your body back to vertical as you come in. This is a fantastic spine stretch and core development movement. It's a fantastic move to literally just do it like that, just back and forth. It's a fantastic stretch. I often do it in the beginning of workshops just to get people moved and warmed up. So it's a really good lower spine and ab core training that we get from this posture. It also stretches all the way up through that lengthened arm. This is why we stretch the arm out. You'll see in the application would look more like this. The hand would be tucked in because you're grabbing someone's neck. But if you do the application, the form like that, you don't get the right stretches happening. Remember, this form's not just about learning how to fight. So in the form, we learn all the body dynamics of the martial application. Also, in the martial application, you wouldn't lean back so far. It would be a much more subtle variation of the movement in the application. We're doing it in this way, like I said about the rooster posture, is to stretch and develop the body. So we extend this arm out, stretching the fingers as usual. Once you start turning back to your left hand, see, just naturally starts following your body. Well, okay, your left hand just stays with your center. That's all you have to think of. So it's across your center here. But now the left hand is in the center. Now just leave it with your center. See? And let it just drop slightly down your body, and it finishes like that. Right hand is overhead, like this. You can't see that hand. And you're just looking straight forward like that, and this is just cradling just in front of your lower abdomen like that. This is yin, this is yang. Okay, so probably the most important thing is that jump, that vertical movement, and extend. Don't leave things tucked in this case. Express out, stretch out. See, I'm lengthening all down through here to stretch all this stuff that's coming through my body. Again, you shouldn't be able to talk when you're doing this posture because everything is so squeezed in here. So if you try to talk and do it, you'll kind of have an idea if you're doing it correctly or not. Let me see. Yeah, if I do it like this, see, now I can talk correctly. Now I can't talk correctly. Now I can talk correctly. But see, I'm going loose here and I can feel all that pressure in my lower back. So engaging here indicates that it's squeezing my diaphragm, and therefore my voice goes like this when I do the posture. So try and sing a song as you're doing it. We can come in here. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, you see? And then you'll have a perfect idea if you're doing the posture correctly. Okay, let's carry on. That posture would normally be done at that sort of pace for beginners. You can later on, in the more advanced forms, you can do it at a very explosive pace like that, but you can also nice and slow. Really elongate that stretch through your body. But I would recommend in the beginning, do it at just a medium sort of pace. That would be the normal level to do it. Just so there's a little bit of momentum going through it, but with a good amount of control as well. So just something like that. The left foot, by the way, which is tucked in here, so you're pigeon-toed, as soon as you start turning to your left, so you're turning this way, as you start turning to your left, you see your foot just naturally turns out on the circumference. It'll just let it rotate where it wants. You see, it might even just slightly pull out, it'll draw in a little bit. Let the foot go where the hip places it. So don't do a heel swivel or a toe swivel. Do nothing with the foot. Just go into the posture and just relax your foot totally. When the hip draws in, the whole foot will just follow that hip movement. So that, as you can see, the whole foot just slightly draws in as we're coming into it. Oh, and remember I said you're looking at this hand. So don't go here and then look to here. You see, now I'm not getting the right stretch. You've got to go here, look at that hand, and then look at it, lean back. Look at it. Oh, keep looking at it. Watch your right knee, don't let it sag. And then squeeze to bring it up to the front. Okay, that movement doesn't stop there. Technically that is the end of the posture, which name is what I said in the thing. It's called take off head and put over your own or something. It's meant to simulate you grabbing his head and ripping his head off and throwing it in the ground in front of you. The next posture is holding the moon in your breast. This kind of application. Again, of course, our abbreviation for this is just the breast posture. So this is the take his head off posture. This is the breast posture. Okay, they are two separate postures, but there's no pause whatsoever. They flow directly into the next one. Okay. Dude in a go-kart just went past, pedaling away. Right, so the body's pulling back, we're opening everything up. Now, if we stop here, okay, there's the posture. Now I have to I don't feel like I want to do the next posture, because the next posture should have been a continuation of that previous posture. So I'll just show you the core structure of the next posture first. So from here, my right heel is still on the circle, by the way. My left foot is on the circle, sort of the whole ball of the foot. I'm kind of in a walking position, ready to walk the circle, like so. So the left ball of the foot's on. Okay, so the hands from here, I'm just in a natural qigong position, tucked, upright, and so on. The hands simply do this. Notice how the right hand brushes, well, it doesn't actually touch in the form, but like as if it's going to brush the left palm. So it's here, meaning it's not out here or in front of the other hand. It should move down the inside like as if the fingers are brushing the left palm. So what's going to happen is just that. But we've got to, of course, put some movement behind that. We don't want to just move the arms. So although there is a waist movement to this posture as well at a later stage, this one we're going to, like I told you about this one, we're going to put the focus on the vertical actions in the beginning. So, because of primarily where we've just come from, we're already doing a sort of vertical action. So we've come around, we're obviously leaning backwards into the posture, looking at that hand. Now, as you come into the final part of that movement, that's what throws that right hand down to the ground. So we throw it around. I'll just show you how it works. You come around here. See that? So this movement, which is coming over, as my waist pulls to the front, you don't stop here. You go, see? So that downward compression, this movement doesn't stop at the vertical point. It goes past the vertical point and back up to the vertical point, okay? So that's what throws your right hand downward. So you bring it around here, bring it over. Now I'm going to pull it through, throw it down, little bit past vertical. That gives you your downward thrust for your right hand. And then as you stand up again, you see that gives you your lifting application to the left hand. And in a minute you'll see the applications to understand what that movement is actually doing for the application. So effectively, to do this movement of your arms, you're compressing down and up, okay, like that. There is a little bit of a twist in the movement. I'm not going to go into the twist actually, but down and up, you see, compress and open, but make it part of the last movement. See, like so. Okay, that's about all I have to say about that particular posture. So I regard that as being really the end of the movement. You do this posture, see, that's the end of the posture. Then we go into the next set of movements. Okay, from there, we poked him in the neck. Now, this could either be a new person or the same person. It doesn't matter, the application's the same. So he's throwing a low punch straight into my belly, like so. So, as I say, same person or a new guy. I've smashed him in there as I've turned the foot out. This is, of course, coming here, around, and into this posture. So he's coming through. I'm evading that strike by slipping the foot and striking him. I'm doing that gently, of course, but in application I'd be slamming him with the open heel palm like so, right in the elbow as he extends the arm, and hopefully hyperflexing his elbow. That's the aim. You may not catch that, but that's what we're aiming for. As soon as you've done that, the actual first attack is to the legs. So you've struck that. As you strike that, you're coming straight through here, you see? Straight into the side of his knee. And putting your foot down into there like so. Just on the angle here maybe. So we've done that there, like so. These left fingers, you see like in the form? Okay? Fingers into the eyes or into the neck. So that's your connecting the flower to the wood. Bang. Okay, from here, this one's a little bit esoterical. It's not that esoterical, taking someone's head off. However, I personally wouldn't use it in a real fight because I'd rather just hit the guy and knock him out. But it gives you the idea of why we're doing it in the form to give you the essence of the posture. So we've come through here, we've stuck our fingers into his neck and we've taken out his knee. As soon as we've done that, I'm going to take his arm, I'm going to switch hands. So I'm taking his arm in my left hand, and striking him across the neck once again. As soon as I've done that, I'll maybe get Chris to demonstrate this one, because again, this posture would only work against someone at least your own height, or preferably a taller attacker. So it works beautifully against a taller attacker, because from here I have to get my shoulder under his shoulder. So you can see it doesn't put me in a very good position, you see, I'm not going to get leverage. But you get the idea. I'm taking his head like so, on the side, and assuming I'm much shorter, and then I'm going to take his wrist, twist it up, take his head, and like so, over my shoulder. So, Chris hasn't actually started training Bagua yet, so I'm just quickly showing him the move to demonstrate on me. He's focusing on the Tai Chi. So you want to take a block there, poke me in the neck, bang. Okay, so take my wrist here, take this under. Yeah, see, now look at where he's situated. You can see his shoulder fits perfectly underneath my shoulder. He can take me around, grab the head, see how nicely that fits, that's it, and then he throws me over. You can either use that as a throw, if you wish, or like drop your body weight. A longer movement will make it a throw. A shorter action will make it a break. So as you can see there, when you're the shorter of the two attackers, that application works really nicely. Okay, carrying on from there, we've got two attackers again. So I've got this guy around the head. What are you coming through with? You're coming through with a grab. Okay, just any kind of two-handed thing to the head. So I'm in a vulnerable position, obviously. I've got this guy over the head, so I'm going to break his head at the same time he's coming through. You see? And I'm just, that's the holding the moon in your breast posture, like so. Remember, we said in the form, we're not closed into the posture. We're slightly open in the posture, like so. So that's indicating I'm turning to the left, and remember there was the downward and open, the opening and closing of the posture. So I'm compressing down, that's breaking this guy's neck, and then split second after that, I lift up to take care of his attack. As soon as I've done that, he's going to react to that, obviously. So he's got me here sort of thing. What his next move is going to be is he's going to control my elbow down and try to attack to my neck with this hand, you see, like so. So that's what he's done. He's come through with two hands. I've dealt with that, but I haven't been, because I've been in such a position to deal with this guy, I haven't been in a position where I can instantly attack him. So I've effectively only done a defense, which is not the best idea, but it will happen to you in some cases. So as I say, he's going to control my elbow and come through here, like so. In which case I do exactly the same as what we've already done. As he does that movement, I yield to that movement. So I yield to the elbow, let him push my elbow down, but as he comes through with this, I take it across, you see? And of course that's coming through here. So that's that same posture again as what we've already covered, and then of course we finish off, same as usual. Okay, right, we're finished now. Second palm change done. We just got to repeat what we do in the first palm change to finish the form and walk the circle. So, we came back to here, nicely sunk down in the rear leg. Well, sorry, here. So we've done our lifting movement. Right, we're going to do exactly the same thing as what we did from this posture. Remember, we did that movement. You're going to do identically the same movement. Go like so. The left palm is just as the posture intends, at a roughly chest height. This hand is down here. So watch the hands. See? Exactly the same movement. From here, we did that. So it was a slight upward circle, remember, as opposed to this one, which was a slight downward circle. So from here, it's a little bit of a lift, but primarily a forward and backward kind of thing. From here, same thing. See that? See where the left hand went? It was an upward circle, not a downward circle. So both hands coming this way. The right hand is circling out that way as well. You see, it's lifting a little bit, but it's primarily a counterclockwise to the floor kind of circle. So from here, like so. And of course it does that same thing. It's yang, yin, yang. So it's got that nice little change to get that flow happening. As you turn your foot out, one. The rest of it is exactly the same. The only difference is where you're starting from. So it's a little bit of a different feel to get into that posture. What you need, don't let it sag. But from there, walk the circle once, as we've learnt in lessons 2 and 3. Back to your starting point. Then we do the whole thing on the other side. No differences. We walk around the circle again, back to your starting point, ready to start palm change number 3. Okay, breathing for the second palm change. what have we got here? So start obviously is the same as the beginning part, so we breathe in here and then out there. We breathe in as we step forward, breathe out as you come forward. There's your strike. Either breathe out through your nose, if you're doing it softly, if you're doing it mediumly, or breathe out through the mouth and make a sound if you're doing it explosively. That applies to all the out breaths. Typically, we always breathe in through the nose. Nothing wrong with breathing in through the mouth, but typically we tend to breathe in through the nose. Okay, from here, you breathed out there. You're going to breathe in as you come into this posture, and then I'll just tell you the breath because you probably may not be able to hear me as I do it. So it's breathe in, out. So just as you lengthen yourself into the stretch, you're breathing out. So then you can breathe in here as we draw in, and then of course breathe out into the slap step. Bang. Breathe in as you come through for this movement, and then breathe out all the way around, all the way, and then you just start breathing in at the end of that movement as you're lifting up the posture. So you're breathing out. So just at the, well, almost in the transition between this one and this one, you'll start to breathe in. So I guess if you break it down block for block, the breath will always overlap from one posture to another once you understand flow. But to just sort of break it down, you're breathing out to here. Now we breathe in for the next posture. Now we breathe out, just like the first palm change, in and then out for the final part, just to give you a rough idea of the breath, how it flows in with the body. The flexed palms as we do the second palm change. As I say, it's pretty obvious where you should flex your palms, but I'll just quickly run through it. So the first part's the same as the first palm change, of course, like that. So flexed palms there. Soften the hands here naturally. Flex the palms here, because that's a posture. You could probably use a rough rule. I'll let you know if there's any exception to this as we go through, but a rough rule would probably be all the postures is where you would flex your palms. So for example, from here, this is not a posture. This is the posture. This is the, if I were going to take a picture and say this is the purple swallow throws the fan, I would say, like so, that's the posture, therefore that's the point where there's a little bit of flex. This is not the posture, but that's the posture. Close the door and push the moon, for example. So that's the next posture. That's where you put your flex on. This is not a posture, but this is a posture. So there's a little bit of flex in the hands there. And then obviously as I come up into the next posture. So the postural points are where you flex the hands. Anyway, back to the second palm change. As we go through, so yeah, relax here and flex here with the palms. Relax, flex both palms. Relax. This one's doing something, so it's kind of got a little bit of a flex in it, just because it's drawing in. But the major part of the flex is that movement there. Little relax. That's a stretch because that's a movement there, so that's where you flex your hand. And then you flex your, well, both hands now are flexed in that posture. Relax your hands a little here as you come into the posture, and then flex your palms. So your palms are flexed throughout this posture. There's a little softening and then a flexion again on the end of the posture there. So of course, as I said, we don't want to just hold the hands flexed all the time. So the palms will be flexed here. They just soften fractionally and then flex for the next posture. Then of course again soften and flex into the next posture, and then that's all the same as what we've already covered. Okay, so that is the end of the second palm change. Lesson number Qigong, walking, first palm, lesson number 5. End of lesson number 5. So you've got a nice little second palm change there to work with. Of course, do it on both sides. Practice it for a while, and then move on to lesson 6, which will be coming up, to cover the third palm change. I'll just do that one more time, just so you can see the movement all in flow, just to have an idea of how it's done. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Stay tuned for lesson, what did I say? 6. Thank you.